How y'all doing? This week, I made a decision. Actually, I made the decision over the weekend, and then I wrote about it, and you'll see that I'm linked to it above here in that little thing that pops up there to the right whenever you go to a video and you notice that there's something extra there. What I decided to do was to let one of my websites go. I bought this thing back in 2006, and I had an intention to turn it into kind of one of those portals. You know, I used to call them directories, but I didn't want like a full directory. My thought was that I would review websites in a way, just kind of review them, not write reviews about them, but review them. And if people offered certain types of services or sold certain types of products, then I would list them, and then on those pages that I created, I would put affiliate ads on them. And I did that, and I made almost nothing from it. It turned out to be a lousy idea. So I basically spent years trying to fix it and figure out what I could do with it, and maybe I can make money from it. Just wasn't happening. And after 10 years, I finally had an epiphany and said, you know what, it's time to drop that because I'm giving it way too much of my time and my energy just trying to figure out what to do with it. It's a dead idea. Sometimes we have to come to those ideas, those realizations that it's time to just give something up and move on. I know a lot of people say, well, never give up on a dream. This ain't really a dream. This is something that I just kept renewing because I said one of these days I'm going to do something with it. I'm too old for that. You know what? If I was still in my 30s, maybe, but I'm not. And I got other things I want to do. So I'm letting that die. At the same time, I have some articles on that site because I had an articles page. And so I put up articles of my own and some other people's articles who had asked me if I would put their articles on there because, like I said, it gave me other opportunities. In that particular instance, it wasn't affiliate ads, it was Google AdSense. So I get to put some ads on there. And I had a couple of those articles that actually ended up being pretty popular. So I don't want to lose that. This means that what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find a way to repurpose at least the articles that I wrote. And that's going to be a little bit difficult because one of the articles I wrote, which was very popular at one time, was tips on how to play 2-4 poker. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it's called Texas Hold'em poker, limit poker. And in other words, you open up with either $2 or $4. If you don't understand poker, that's not going to mean anything. Anyway, I wrote this article and I gave these tips on how to play that game because I was actually pretty good at that game. And not as many people play it anymore, but it was still kind of popular and it still gets its bit of traffic. I guess there are some limit games that are starting to come back, and so people are looking for stuff like that. And it gets interesting to try to figure out, well, okay, where am I going to repurpose this? For instance, I have a blog about blogging and social media. I have a finance blog. I got a medical blog. I've got my general business blog. And then I got my local blog. And I'm hoping that maybe I can figure out a way to tie it into my local blog because there's a casino about 45 minutes away where I used to play this 2-4 limit game. So maybe I can get away with that. But I've got other articles on there, and I have to try to figure out how I'm going to repurpose them, or even if I'm going to repurpose them. And that leads me to the general topic about repurposing content. Last year, or a couple of years ago, I wrote a post, and I think I did a video. If I find it, I'll pop it in here, about going back to blogs where either I gave an interview or I wrote a guest post for someone else, and they have shut their blogs down. And I used to keep a copy of every single one of those things. And when I realized those blogs were gone, I said, well, wait, I wrote it, so it's my property, so I'm going to put it on my blog. And I have. And there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, it's pretty much expected. If you want to keep your own content, you should do that. And I've been writing for other people since 2009. And I haven't kept everything, but I've kept a lot of articles that I put on other sites or that I sold to other people that I go and look it up and try to see if those articles are still on there, because a lot of those websites shut down. And if they shut down, I have reclaimed some of those articles and repurposed them, because those were things that I wrote about that fit in, at least a lot of times, with what I do on one of these 5 blogs that I have. And, you can do that. One of the other things I do is I have written all types of things over the years on the topic of leadership, which is what part of my business is, and healthcare, which is the other part of my business. And so I've been going back and looking at those things and re-updating them and then repurposing those and putting them on the blog. Because everyone that I know has written something somewhere that's not fiction that they could go back to and say, you know what, if I update this and I expand upon it in some fashion, I should be able to use this. Everybody. I'm sure that probably most of you, you know what, if you're in high school, you've written a paper in, somewhere, and maybe you can find a way to use that and repurpose it. Repurpose it in a video. There are still people who are doing reviews of Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer was written back in the 1800s, and there are still people who are doing reviews on that book. There's people who do reviews on Moby Dick, and everyone has their own take. There's, oh my God, what do they call him? Thug Notes. Thug Notes, which basically does reviews on very old books, mainly older books. And, he updates it in his own way. But it turned into something that got to be very popular. You don't see it as much right now, but a couple of years ago, it was the bomb. I mean, I just love this guy. And I still do whenever he gets to pop in with another book. So, you look at this concept of repurposing, and there are different ways that people talk about repurposing. For instance, one of the things that I was talking to someone about tonight was repurposing something in a totally different format. I just mentioned maybe finding something and turning it into a video. He talked about doing something that they call SlideShare, where people create these programs of slideshows that they did, PowerPoint presentations and such. Something that my mind is saying, well, wait, who would care to look at that? Because a lot of times those things don't offer a lot of explanation. You just kind of see what's up there. That was the purpose of, at least for me, of creating a PowerPoint, so that I could talk about something, but I had just highlights. And that's most of what I've ever seen. And I have looked at just a couple of them, over the last couple of years, and that's all they are. And I don't understand why so many people are going to look at these things, but they are. So maybe that's one way. You could, repurpose something into a podcast if that's what you want to do. It's an interesting thing. So I just wanted to kind of put out this idea of repurposing content, repurposing stuff that you actually created on your own. Now, don't be repurposing stuff other people wrote, because that's called plagiarism, and in some cases, that's illegal. I'm just saying. So that's all I had today. I wanted to talk about repurposing content, and I just did. I hope y'all have a wonderful week. I'll be back next week. Take care.